A sharp scream cut through the air, followed by a heavy thud, and the unmistakable crash of someone being thrown judo-style onto a wicker loveseat. I bolted out to the porch, shotgun gripped tightly in my hands, only to discover Patricia Belmore, our HOA president, sprawled face first amid a stack of firewood, moaning softly. I only wanted to question him. My 17-year-old son, Jake, stood there calmly, arms crossed as if he'd merely brushed aside an annoying insect. "Dad," he said evenly. She tried to zip-tie me. "My name is Robert Garrison. I am 51 years old, a single father, and a software engineer. I own a modest cabin in Pine Ridge Preserve, an HOA community in the mountains that's supposed to be relaxed and peaceful. No rushing traffic, no contests over perfectly manicured lawns, just strong coffee, snowfall in winter, and spotty cell service. Strong enough for work emails if I climb onto a tree stump." Then there's Patricia Belmore, self-appointed Director of Moral and Structural Integrity, position she invented after the board grew weary of rejecting her odd proposals, such as requiring uniform curtains on every window and conducting audits of seasonal bird feeders. Most of us simply avoided her path, but that summer, Jake moved in with me full-time. That's when Patricia took notice of him. It began innocently enough with written notices. Minors over 12 must participate in an HOA-approved cabin maintenance apprenticeship program. Soon, she was spreading rumors to neighbors that Jake was learning anti-HOA tactics, whatever those might be. She even attempted to outlaw martial arts within community boundaries, referencing a fabricated Clause 14C on hand-to-hand combat restrictions. For clarity, Jake had recently finished an FBI youth outreach program in Denver, earning certification in basic tactical self-defense. He's a quiet teenager who devours Tom Clancy novels and excels at grilling burgers. Patricia, though, perceived him as a direct challenge to her HOA authority. One afternoon, I spotted a flyer taped to my door. Teen Surveillance and Compliance Program, Patricia's Cabin Crusaders. That's when I decided to install security cameras. Those cameras would turn out to be crucial. Patricia began appearing at strange times, using a tape measure to check spacing between our porch chairs, snapping photos of Jake's exercise gear, and grumbling about unapproved strength-building activities. In just 2 weeks, she submitted 17 complaints, each one more absurd than the previous. One alleged that Jake's daily runs amounted to paramilitary drills, disrupting the community's peaceful atmosphere. I attempted to talk sense into her. "Patricia," I said at one HOA meeting, "my son is a straight-A student who volunteers at the local animal shelter. He's not scheming to overthrow your flowerbed rules." She rose dramatically, her voice climbing to that shrill tone that could set dogs barking miles away. "Mr. Garrison," she declared with fierce self-righteousness, "I possess evidence of your son rehearsing combat maneuvers near the communal gazebo." The room went quiet. Elderly Harold Finster, who'd been napping in the back, stirred just long enough to mumble, "Good for the kid," before drifting off once more. Matters worsened when Patricia formed a dedicated neighborhood watch group focused solely on Jake. She enlisted 2 fellow meddlers, Dorothy Hutchkins and Margaret Swoney, outfitting them with matching vests labeled Teen Activity Monitor on the back. They began tailing Jake to the grocery store, the library, even parking outside the movie theater during his viewings of the newest superhero movies. Jake dealt with it far more patiently than I ever could. He'd wave politely at them, offer assistance with their note-taking clipboards, and on one sweltering stakeout day, he even brought them glasses of lemonade. This kindness only enraged Patricia further. Then came the confrontation at the community barbecue. Jake was assisting with burger service when Patricia strode over, measuring tape in hand. She proclaimed loudly to the crowd that his apron ties exceeded regulation length by 3/4 of an inch, a blatant indicator of defiant behavior. That was the moment my tolerance snapped. Patricia announced firmly, ensuring everyone could hear, "You need to find a pastime that doesn't revolve around harassing teenagers." She whirled around, her face flushing to that familiar deep purple hue I'd learned to recognize as the prelude to yet another HOA violation notice. "This is my calling, Mr. Garrison," she shot back, her voice trembling with fervor. Safeguarding our neighborhood from anarchy and decay. From his lawn chair, Harold Finster, now wide awake, shouted, "The only anarchy around here is you, Patricia." A low rumble of agreement rippled through the gathered crowd. Patricia's left eye began to twitch violently, a telltale warning that she was on the verge of something truly unhinged. It was meant to be a quiet afternoon. I was indoors, absorbed in a trout fishing documentary, while Jake relaxed on the porch with a glass of lemonade. According to the security footage and the raccoon that lives beneath our shed, if it could talk, Patricia approached wearing full khaki safari attire, clutching a handful of zip ties and shouting about the need for removal and immediate deprogramming. The cameras recorded every moment in crisp high definition. Patricia had apparently persuaded herself that Jake was being groomed into some kind of anti-HOA elite operative. She charged through our gate, waving the zip ties like an unhinged party entertainer gone rogue. "Young man," she screeched in a tone sharp enough to strip varnish from wood, "you're coming with me for compulsory ray education." Jake, who had been engrossed in a book about World War II fighter aircraft, set his lemonade down with deliberate calm. "Ma'am," he replied in the steady voice he'd mastered during the FBI program, "I'm going to need you to step back." Patricia lunged forward. It was a grave error. What followed resembled a wildlife program where the seemingly helpless prey turns out to be a highly trained martial artist. Jake sidestepped smoothly, redirected her forward momentum, spun her gently into a patio table, and secured her in a modified shoulder lock, straight from the FBI seminar. The entire sequence lasted perhaps 3 seconds. Then he called out, "Dad, we've got company." I rushed outside to find Patricia prone on the deck, howling about violations of her rights and dangerous architectural features. Jake held her wrists firmly with one hand while dialing 911 with the other, the very picture of composed teenage restraint. "She tried to kidnap me," he explained casually, as if announcing the mail had come early. The sheriff's deputies arrived faster than expected. It turned out they'd been anticipating the day Patricia finally stepped over the line from nuisance to felon. Deputy Morrison surveyed the scene and exhaled heavily. "Patricia again?" he muttered, reaching for his cuffs. "She's trying to launch a teen deprogramming initiative." Patricia wailed from her position on the deck. "This boy is a weapon." Deputy Morrison watched the security footage on my laptop, his eyebrows rising steadily higher with every frame. "Ma'am," he said deliberately, "did you honestly attempt to restrain a minor with zip ties?" "It was for the greater good of Pine Ridge Preserve," she cried. I had already called the sheriff myself. They were well acquainted with Patricia. This apparently wasn't her first foray into protective community abduction. Last year, she'd attempted something similar with a neighbor's schnauzer, insisting the dog was orchestrating an HOA overthrow. She was arrested on the spot, still ranting about teenage militias and deep state mountain cabins. The footage was forwarded to the sheriff's office Facebook page with the caption, "Real self-defense starts young." Within hours, the video exploded online. Someone overlaid it with yakety sax. Another added dramatic superhero orchestration each time Jake moved. The comments overflowed with viewers sharing their own HOA nightmares, though few could rival a president trying to abduct a teenager for learning self-defense. Neighbors finally began speaking up. It emerged that Patricia had threatened at least 6 other children with expulsion from the community, and once imposed a 3-minute time limit on porch occupancy for anyone under 18. Tom Brennan, 2 houses down, revealed she'd tried to prohibit his daughter from riding her bicycle because the pink streamers violated approved HOA color guidelines. Sarah Walsh recounted how Patricia had measured her son's sidewalk chalk drawings and deemed them 16% over the permitted creative expression dimensions. The emergency HOA meeting that followed was packed beyond capacity. Residents who hadn't attended in years showed up, some even bringing popcorn. Patricia's remaining loyalists, Dorothy and Margaret, attempted a feeble defense, but they visibly squirmed when the kidnapping attempt was projected onto the community center's large screen. Harold Finster rose slowly, gripping his cane. "In my 83 years, he declared, voice steady, "I've witnessed a great many things, but never someone so intoxicated by power that they'd try to zip tie a child for knowing how to protect himself. I moved to remove Patricia Belmore as HOA president. Effective immediately, the eyes thundered through the room. Patricia faced criminal charges, attempted unlawful restraint, harassment, and endangering a minor. Her Cabin Crusaders program was outlawed, and the HOA held emergency elections. She was defeated in a landslide by a retired math teacher named Leonard, whose first act was to ban zip ties from all community events. A tea trial. Patricia opted to represent herself, a decision that unfolded exactly as one might predict. She submitted a 300-page manifesto she labeled Evidence of Widespread Teenage Insurgency in Pine Ridge Preserve. The judge called 2 recesses simply to compose himself. Jake testified with the same unflappable poise he'd displayed during the incident. When asked why he believed Patricia had singled him out, he replied simply, "I think she was afraid of someone who could stand up to her literally." The prosecution detailed Patricia's pattern of harassment, including 47 complaints filed against children under 18 in the previous year alone. One had solemnly accused a group of 10-year-olds of forming a bicycle gang merely for riding to the park together. The jury returned after exactly 17 minutes, guilty on all counts. Sentencing was masterful. The judge, openly exasperated by what he described as the most absurd case of HOA overreach in his 30 years on the bench, imposed the maximum allowable penalties: 2 years in state prison, 3 years probation upon release, $5,000 in fines, and a permanent restraining order requiring her to remain 500 feet from Jake and any HOA property. Patricia's mouth fell open in shock. 2 years? She shrieked. For trying to protect my community? The judge leaned forward. "Ma'am, you attempted to kidnap a minor using zip ties. Consider yourself fortunate it's not 5. As the bailiffs escorted her out, Patricia twisted around for one final glare at Jake. "This isn't over," she screamed. "The whole will rise again." Jake merely offered a polite wave goodbye, which somehow infuriated her even more.